So one of the most common questions I receive is there a formula for financial freedom? And the answer to that question is yes, there is. I teach this to business owners all the time, and it reads like this: free cash flow greater than your daily needs and wants. So when you're existing in this state of free cash flow beyond your daily needs and wants, that's a state of richness. The challenge, though, with being rich is that it depends upon you to be generating that cash flow. And the wealthy have really figured out how to take this formula and supercharge it by just replacing themselves on that generation of the free cash flow with assets that have been acquired over time that generate the cash flow for them. You may be asking yourself, well, Edward, is now a good time to be trying to accumulate assets? And my answer to you is absolutely yes. Even in times of challenge, for instance, a recession, that could be a perfect time to be putting capital to work to acquire assets. And which assets, you may be asking? One you may not be thinking of because of the run-up it's had recently is real estate. But during a recession, real estate could be an ideal environment for you to invest. In order to make sure you're doing it the right way, though, I want to share with you 5 tips that can help make sure that you're on the right path. The tip to start with is to be sure that if you're going to invest in real estate, you want to be investing or focusing on distressed properties. That's probably going to be where you're going to find the best possible deal. Now, over the course of the past 18 to 24 months, real estate in the United States has really been off the charts with regard to growth. But in a time of recession, those numbers start to change pretty dramatically. In fact, if you look at recent statistics from the Board of Realtors, you're starting to see information where homes are staying on the market for longer periods of time. The offers are coming in below asking for the first time in a long time, and that could potentially put you in a position to find a home that is in a distressed condition. What does distressed mean? Well, essentially it means one of 2 main factors. Either there's a physical impediment to the property, meaning the property wasn't kept well over a period of time and may require a little bit more tender loving care in order to get it into a position for marketability. Or 2, there's a financial condition within the ownership that's creating the distress on the property. Maybe the owner has lost a job and can no longer afford mortgage payments. Or maybe the mortgage itself has switched from being a fixed mortgage to a variable mortgage rate based on prevailing rates at the time that could dramatically increase the carrying cost of that property. So when you're looking for those distressed properties, you're going to want to make sure that you're looking for properties that give you the opportunity to create the best deal for you. So there are 2 main approaches to real estate. Now, don't get me wrong, there's lots of different ways to get involved in real estate investing, but the 2 main approaches that most are familiar with are the buy for resale approach versus the buy for rental approach. In a rising real estate market, buy for resale approach is actually a pretty good approach. Oftentimes it's referred to as fix and flip, which means you're getting into a distressed property, you're investing some money in order to renovate that property and then position that property for resale. Now, in times of economic growth when it comes to real estate, that makes a lot of sense because you're acquiring a property at a reasonably low price, you're putting a little bit of dollars into it to renovate it, putting maybe some sweat equity of your own into it, but ultimately the resale value leaves you with a reasonable return on the back end. But the challenge is during a recession, the economics are actually flipped on that. You could potentially acquire a property, put some money into it, and the market conditions around you bring the value of that property to below what your total investment would be into that property. So therefore, the better approach for you to be considering during a recession is the buy for rental approach, which means you're acquiring a property, again, a distressed property at a reasonable value, maybe putting some renovation work into it to force the equity up and force the retail rental rates up, but ultimately you're looking to hold that property for a longer period of time, more so than just the fix and flip. So I'd strongly urge you to consider buying real estate for the purpose of holding it and renting it. So tip number 3 is to do your research. You'd be remarkably surprised at the number of individuals who don't actually jump into the numbers and the data surrounding the properties that they're considering investing in. When you're talking about real estate, there are so many different factors for you to consider. What is the local community like? What are the school systems like? What are the reasonable values of the property surrounding the property you're looking to acquire? If you're buying locally, you may be more informed with regard to that information, but if you're buying outside of your local region, even outside of your own state, that could be a little bit more intensive for you to find out the data. But it's important for you to do it. And the reason why I want you to be open-minded with regard to doing your research is because data informs decisions. Anything else is just guessing. have a long-term perspective. That's my tip number 4 for you. When you look at volatility is something that is inherent in every single recession. And what volatility is, it's just really the frequency of upswings and downswings in a certain period of time. Now, when you look at recessions and real estate, that volatility could mean frequent price changes, typically to the downside during a short period of time. And that could be pretty knuckle-biting for most real estate investors. But what I'd encourage you to do is to maintain a long-term perspective, because the average recession lasts only about 18 months. That means that there are some recessions that last longer and some recessions that last shorter, but 18 months in the grand scheme of things is not a long time. So when you maintain a long-term perspective, that can help you avoid all of the jitters that are involved around real estate investing, specifically when you're investing to buy, hold, and rent. Now, Google and ChatGPT may be your friend. In fact, you can get the answer to almost any question just with the stroke of a few keys. But the reality is this: my tip number 5 for you is to make sure you are seeking professional guidance when it comes to real estate investing, because navigating those waters can be complex and costly. So when you're looking to make sure you're making the right decision for you, your family, and your business enterprises, you want to make sure you're doing that from a seasoned perspective. And getting someone who's seasoned in the industry to give you counsel is definitely the best approach to take. So there you have it, 5 tips to help you create and accumulate wealth even during a recession. These tips are great, and the reality is they are a wonderful first start. But if you're really interested in taking your life and your business to the next level, you absolutely want to become part of my community. There's a variety of ways to do it, but one of the best ways to do it is to jump into our Real Profit Society. All you need to do is follow the link in my bio.